meet you. Good to meet you. Is this your first time in Vancouver?
It's my first time in Canada. Yeah.
You're kidding me.
No,
You're kidding me.
never been to Canada. Oh, so very excited.
Brought the beautiful weather.
Monsoon weather.
Did you guys know each other before you came to Vancouver?
I've known Angus for 20 years.
No.
Yeah, when he was younger and more handsome.
Yeah. So you guys both worked at Nom in London. Yeah. I was lucky enough when David Thompson was here last time to have the food, and he snuck in a lot of ingredients.
Yeah.
He said he hid a lot of stuff in the soup.
Just for the record, all the stuff he brought in were legally brought in.
So
For the record, yeah.
Not that David's one to embellish.
Yeah.
And who should let the truth get in the way of a good story? Right?
but it was really, I think, interesting for a lot of people, because it was the first time for people to have, I don't know why, I don't want to say not real Thai food or fake Thai food. I think the idea of authenticity is real. It's loaded, right?
Yeah, it's very loaded.
But very pungent flavors.
Yeah.
And I on the Netflix, on the chef's tip, you talk about how kind of intense Thai cuisine really is, right? And for a lot of people, that was the first time kind of tasting it. And so now that you're here and you're looking at some of the ingredients, I guess Bo was out buying something. Is there anything that you're excited to work with here?
Definitely the seafood. Like, it's really impressive so far what we've seen. And then the protein that Angus is getting, the beef, the duck, the quail, it's all really good. The tropical produce is a bit challenging.
Yeah.
But I think we found some really good stuff, and we found a good balance of stuff that's either been brought in or from Thailand and the local stuff. So,
Did you guys bring anything?
yeah, of course.
Oh.
Yeah, we brought some curry paste, brought our fish sauce, palm sugar, the palm sugar from
Yeah.
Netflix. I'll get you some to try that.
No,
it's amazing. You have to try it.
Yeah.
Yourself.
And so, there's a lot of Asian ingredients in Vancouver.
Yeah,
right?
there are.
And the chicken is raised to Chinese standards. Cantonese food really is all about fresh seafood. So you guys, the halibut, everything, like, they really try not to have frozen food. And if it's swimming and alive, that's all the better, right? And some of that comes from, there's so many Chinese people in Vancouver. Chinese restaurants can really please its own palate, right, so to speak, right? And with Thai restaurants, no matter where, I guess except for LA maybe, there isn't like a really big Thai population. And so how do you think that ends up working?
One, I think, is a lot of Thai restaurants overseas, especially ones that are run by Thais, they tend to placate a local clientele, and they're too nice.
Yeah.
So they just want to please everyone, and so they think that Westerners or other cultures can't handle the spice or the intensity of their food. But I disagree. I think actually if people are taught how to eat Thai food correctly, then they will enjoy it a lot more, because they create the balance themselves and they eat it with rice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've heard that, like David Thompson said the same thing, which is it isn't anything except just this deep-seated hospitable, like this idea of hospitality, right? And they want people to enjoy themselves and whatever, and they'll never say no.
Thank you.
Hang, what is that? They'll never say no. That's not right?
Yeah, which is a real shame.
Yeah.
It leads to what we call the bastardization of Thai food.
Yeah.
Where you get these wonderful cuisine and wonderful flavors, and they just get muted and dulled down.
Yeah.
And then you have this inverse effect where people traveling to Thailand or coming to a restaurant with an authentic experience, like, no, this is not what Thai food is. It's not what I get in my home or wherever it is. And it's like, well, actually, no, that's not Thai food. That's been changed for your palate and changed for your...
But it's so much so that even in Thailand, you find food like that as well.
Of course. Yeah, even in Thailand. A lot of the commercial restaurants that are catering to a heavily sort of, let's say, touristic clientele, they alter the food and they make it less Thai.
This idea of authenticity, I think there's an authenticity trap, right? And authenticity doesn't come from, there's a special ingredient or there's whatever. The ingredients are, of course, really important, like the palm sugar. There's a depth in that palm sugar that you're never going to get in any other way. And the underlying kind of thrumming of that is really important to the dish, right?
Sure.
But what was really interesting to me about kind of the Netflix special and how you guys approach things is beyond authenticity, this idea of integrity, right? Integrity of being part of a bigger ecosystem and supporting smaller producers. And I lived in Asia. I lived in the tropics, and when pollution goes south there, it seems to be worse than it is here. It seems to kind of spread really, really quickly. And so those two things seem to go hand in hand. How do you guys see that ecosystem at the end of the day?
Well, I think at the moment we're really on the precipice, and I think that the world is sort of struggling to find solutions to the climate crisis. But I think that a large part of our problem is being caused by the industrialization of our food system. Mm-hmm. And I feel like by supporting local farmers, by supporting biodiversity, it goes a long way to actually helping our food systems, but also helping our environment. Because it's been proven time and time again that really healthy ecosystems with huge biodiversity contribute more to the reversing the effects or limiting the effects of global warming and climate change than any other activity we can do.
Yeah. I mean, in LA, I went to Anajac, and it was really interesting, again, that idea of his ecosystem.
Yeah.
And it was definitely that kind of big, punchy Thai flavors, beautiful rice, and just like delirium when it all kind of works. But he uses local suppliers, and so there's a sense of
you have to use local suppliers. Like there's certain things that you need from Thailand that you just can't get produced here, or not yet. Yes. And those things, sure, they're going to come, and that's like any cuisine. There's like fish sauces and shrimp paste and certain elements of the cuisine that just can't grow in these climates. But there's other ingredients and produce in these areas that are just fantastic.
Yeah.
And they're not just comparable. Some cases they're better.
Yeah.
So why not use them? And the thing, I think this is also going back to your first question about how Thais sort of adapt and change things to localize and to a local customer base. The Thais are really adept at taking something that's not theirs and making it Thai.
Yeah.
So the easiest and most, let's say, superficial example would be chilies.
Yeah.
Chilies aren't part of the Thai repertoire up until like 200 years ago, until the Portuguese brought them in, right?
Right. No.
So now you can't imagine Thai cuisine without chili. But they took it and they made it into a way no one else uses chilies like the Thais do.
Yeah.
And I think Thais have a habit of doing that wherever they go, and you can definitely find it. Sometimes it goes wrong.
Yeah.
They put fucking carrot in everything. Are you allowed to swear?
Yeah.
So they put carrot in everything and it just goes really like sideways.
Yeah.
But some of them do a really good job, and I think places like here at Maenam and other places that I've seen, they can take the local produce and make it Thai.
Yeah.
And that's the important thing, is making it have that authenticity and flavor.
Yes.
Not necessarily in the provenance of it, but the flavor. And there is a real difference, I think, when you taste real Thai food. You can tell because it's been seasoned properly, it's been seasoned with love and care, but it's also nuanced and balanced and still intense.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think it's the way that the chef itself have to sort of think about how they approach the food. You know, I think with respect to, I think we had this conversation when David was here, like, authenticity is, I mean, for me...
It's a dirty word.
It is, right? But, like, I'm really happy that Dylan's willing to come here and for all of the proteins and stuff like that, he want to use only local, only sustainable, only organic. And that's something that we want to be doing as well. Like, we want to represent, like, Thai flavors and spirit and ideas, but some sort of through, like, he has projects in Japan and Dubai. Like, he's also trying his best to kind of utilize his ideals of the Thai flavors and then this idea of authenticity, but in representation in forms of like Japanese products.
Yeah.
So, I really enjoy that because it's a challenge. Like you want to find things that work here that sort of will work in Thai dish, but that's sort of the fun part of it. It's better than flying over frozen catfish, is what I always say.
Well, it's true, and that's why when people kind of judge authenticity, really they're getting the heart of, well, do you have integrity? Well, you can have integrity without being slavish to something, and Thai food is some of the most absolutely sophisticated in the world. Like the balance, the nuance, the notes that you're trying to pick out, and that will always really, really, really travel well.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So, super excited to try your food. What would you like the diners to walk away from the meal kind of thinking about? Is there that idea?
I mean, I always say I just want them to be happy and full.
Yeah.
I think that's the first thing. Like at the end of the day, sometimes I feel like in hospitality we get too caught up in this whole like conceptualizing things and giving a message to the diners. It's like, no, we're in hospitality. We're here, we all do to have a good time, enjoy a meal with friends. Hopefully they learn that they walk away from the meal and they go, a shared meal is the best kind of Thai meal. When I mix these flavors together, I can control it myself and get a balance. And Also, I hope they walk away with some new flavors because we're bringing some dishes that even in Thailand you can't find.
Really?
You know, like the curry is really, really obscure in Thailand. It's interesting. I was telling Angus before because it's the curry paste. There's no dried chili in the curry paste, but it's a red curry. And generally in red curries, it's always dried chili. This one's fresh chili. So it's a bit different.
I love it. I got to say, you know, like in Vancouver, there's some real, and I don't know if you guys are going to get a chance to go out, but the Cantonese food here is crazy, right? It's the skill level in the city of these Hong Kong chefs that came over in the 90s is phenomenal, right? But they're all like 70, 80, 90. The chef at Landmark Hot Pot is 70, right? 90, sorry. And all that kind of hidden work is going to go away because it's hard to step in and learn that hidden work. So I got to say, I find it amazing that you guys, you and Bo and people like David and Angus are really carrying something forward that would evaporate if you're not careful. So
yeah, I mean, I think all cuisines should be continually evolving, right? But I think the only way to evolve properly is to understand the roots and to understand the core of the cuisine. When you get new chefs or new people coming through and they do a cuisine for 2 or 3 months, or they just touch it, or they read a book, and then they start to fuck with it, it's like you straight away you can tell that they don't understand the essence of the cuisine and the dish doesn't work. But when people learn the true nature of a cuisine, then you can do anything to it. You can take any ingredient from anywhere in the world and you can still make it that cuisine because you understand that cuisine. And I think understanding is where it's important, right?
Yeah. Well, it's kind of like, it's, you know, I have an arts background, right? Like, so when I studied fine arts, the first thing you did for 2 years is study art history, you know, like all the history behind it, you know, certain things and different movements. And then you understand, you don't just, you know, I've always tell people this, like, I think one of the big mistakes I made when I was young cook is like, I thought I could play as a blank canvas, I can do whatever I want to. But it's really not. Like, you know, like, I think Frank Gehry always says 15% is what he has for true creativity. And, you know, between sort of what client wants, what seasonality, like different things, you know, I think you have to understand restrictions, boundaries well, to understand history, then you can kind of create within those guidelines. Because I think if you were given unlimited sort of like blank canvas, I mean, it's very, very difficult to construct something that is meaningful, I think.
Yeah, and especially in this day and age where you can actually do a blank canvas because you can get everything from anywhere by flying it in. I think the restrictive nature, well, putting restrictions on yourself when you're cooking through seasonality, through provenance, actually make you be more creative because you need to look at things differently and assess them properly. Really good because it's sugar, but it's seasonal. Like everything else, it's seasonal. So during different seasons, it has different flavor sort of components. And right now, it's like salty, minerally. Because it's in the brackish waters as well. And then during summer, when there's less rain, it becomes more intense. And when there's more rain, it becomes like less intense in flavor. So it changes.
But when I saw them footage of it, what are they like? How are they harvesting it? It seemed like
there's these little cans, basically, and they climb the tree twice a day.
Right.
And they have to cut the flower. Because if you don't cut it twice a day, the flower it dries up, and you end up keeps growing into a perfume, right?
Right.
So they cut it twice a day. They put some natural wood chips in the bottom of it to act as a sort of to stop it from fermenting.
Right.
But they have to collect it twice a day, otherwise it'll ferment and turn to alcohol or vinegar.
How much nectar does one flower produce a day?
Well, it
I think
depends.
you told me, I can't remember.
Yeah, but it depends on the season. So very little. So right now they're producing 30 kilos a day.
Wow.
Out of
nectar.
No, coconut sugar.
Okay, that's pretty good.
But then during really dry season, 5-6 kilos.
Yeah. Okay, I think when we went to visit last time, she said she was only doing like 10 kilos a day.
So it fluctuates and changes.
Do you take her whole supply?
When we can. Yeah. I mean, they never leave the farm. So we actually have to go and pick it up from them. They won't even send it. So,
really?
Yeah. So every time I want sugar, you have to go and pick it up.
Why won't they leave the farm? Is this because it has to be tested?
Well, there's only 2 women. They're like, I think there must be 18. The youngest one's 18 now, or certainly 7 or 8. And she's climbing up like 80 to 100 trees a day, twice a day. And I can't
the ladder is not what you think. It's like this one.
It's a bamboo with some knobs on it.
Knobs on the sides.
And I do it bare feet, and it hurts my feet when I do it in shoes.
So is someone going to take over, or when they're retired? That's
I'm
it.
not sure. Their kids have gone to the city, the Bangkok, and working in the city.
I'll let a little taste.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How that was.
Have you tried this batch yet?
I haven't tried this batch yet.
Oh my. It's, actually, not out with the bitch. Oh my god, that's delicious.
Right. When we first opened the restaurant, because it was just the two of us in the kitchen for the petit fours, we just boil that up and put it on the petit four plate. And all the Thais were like, oh, what's this dessert? And we're like, it's palm sugar. Like, yeah, no, we know what's in it, but what is the dessert?
No, it's just palm sugar.
No, it's just palm sugar.
It's so intense.
It's like fudge, right?
Yeah, but it's like this. It's salty. There's almost like definitely like a soy saucy kind of undertone to it.
Yeah.
But it's like so complex. Is it that there is old school Thai chefs and really it really is left to young people and maybe some outsiders to kind of carry on the traditions that just have, or like how has that worked itself out? Like
I think, like traditionally speaking, the cuisine was really, it progressed a lot when there was the royal families in the courts and stuff like that, because there was like harems of women basically cooking all day to please the royal family. And so they were really elevating the cuisine then, and then it sort of started to go away, and it was for a long time, cooking was seen as like a secondary lower class job. So a lot of middle class families and wealthy people didn't want to do it.
yeah.
So it was left to the poor, and they weren't really taught, I guess. They were just, workers. So it was sort of, I wouldn't say lost, but they moved away from that path of innovation and just sort of kept doing what they were doing. So a lot of knowledge was lost. Also because up until maybe 200 years ago or 150 years ago, they weren't writing anything down.
Yeah.
All the recipes were passed verbally. So as those older generations died, the food goes with them, unless the family is really wealthy and then they put a book together, the memorial book,
Right.
funeral book.
Oh,
You want some of my beer?
You know me.
do you want a beer before we get started?
No, that's not.
So this is your first time in Canada, especially for
Actually.
yeah. But you guys worked together for a chunk of time.
Yeah, 20 years ago.
20 years ago. You guys were like 12. I
Probably.
can't picture.
Well, I remember her first day actually, because she was on my station, and that's the first day, right? And then she had worked within the company, but in Bangkok wholesale, but it was an Italian restaurant. But it was fun because I remember that first day. I think we all went out. Dylan, us, we all went out because we all got really crapped on by David that day, the first day. So
Yeah. I walked in when he sort of yelling at you hardcore.
I don't know. I can't remember what he was yelling at me for, to be honest. It didn't happen often, but yeah. So anyways, and then
He thought he was acting.
yeah. He's always under a lot of stress.
Well, I'm coming tomorrow night to eat and really, really excited. Really excited. I just had a little taste of the sugar. Holy cow.
Yeah.
It's not like anything I've ever tasted.
This one is really special because it's come from the place that we have to drive to get it. Then same story, yeah.
Yeah. You don't need to repeat, so.
No, you can be.
Yeah. But it's and the ladies who are doing it, like, they're like 80 or something,
Yeah,
right?
exactly. They're getting really old now. Like we know them when they are in their 60s, like less. Then we now know them for like 15 years already. So yeah.
Yeah. What's going to happen when they retire?
Yeah, I keep telling them like to pass it on to the kids, but then the kid doesn't want it, obviously.
Yeah.
So I asked them to like hire someone to help them, but they don't want it either.
Yeah.
So they really don't. At one point we tried to buy the land so that we have that, but it's way too expensive.
Yeah. I mean, we have the same thing, we were talking a little bit about the Chinese food in Vancouver. The Cantonese food, Hong Kong Cantonese food here is spectacular. The chefs who came over in the 90s were at the top of their field. But they're old now, right? They're like, a young person would be 70. The chef, I'm sure the chef at Chef's Choice is 80.
Yeah, but because they all came over in the late 80s, early 90s. A lot of them sort of immigrated over here. A lot of them all very, very highly trained Cantonese chefs. They're all very highly pedigreed chefs that brought their art over here. But the thing is with Chinese food is you learn when you learn through watching. They don't really give you the whole recipe.
Right.
So some of the recipes might be
Well, it's the hidden work that is hard, right? It's the thing that you don't quite see. And yet the thing in front of you is the best example of why does this fish taste so awesome? Why does this chicken taste so good? And well, salt it, we hang it out over dry, we steam it, da 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 da. And so, I mean, what was really interesting just seeing even your journey, it was like, I don't know how to say, like discovering these old ways. Did you have to find them yourself, or were there people that could pass it on to you?
I think like we're lucky that David sort of passed it on, but when we were back, like when we start, like the first time we went back after London, we travel a lot everywhere in Thailand, and then try to learn from older people as well. So like we need to like sort of sit there and see what happens as well. Very similar, because before I met David, I tried to learn it from a old Thai person. Suddenly, most of them were just like, do that.
Well, it's also because like, I think a lot of the Asian cooking, Thai cooking, they don't really keep recipes. It's very intuitive, right? They can show you how to do it, but they're not going to be able to like tell you exactly how much, because they're constantly tasting, they're constantly adjusting.
But even I asked what to do a starch in like restaurants outside Bangkok, they don't allow. That is like the mentalities of the Thai people as well. Like I want to learn how to do the candles for smoking, and they just like wait until I'm 65 first, and maybe I will teach you then.
My goodness.
Yeah, they close all the window and the door.
Yeah.
And do it because they want to keep the secret.
Yeah.
And they also have the mentality of like if they still make that and sell it to make money for themselves, they're not gonna pass on the recipe. And that happened a lot within the Thai desserts like family. Yeah.
So I mean, in Vancouver, part of the reason also why the Chinese food is so good is there's a big Chinese population, right?
Right.
And so it just has to please itself. It doesn't have to please an outsider.
True.
But in Thai food, like it's so popular everywhere. But except for maybe LA that I can think of, there isn't really a big Thai population. And so it's interesting seeing how Thai food travels.
Not that great.
I
To
think,
be honest,
it's not that great. But I think the Thais, generally speaking, travel to Australia a lot. So there's a huge contingent of like Thai food in Australia. In London, there's a lot of Thai people in London.
Yeah.
However, I think in America, recently, like when we first moved back, we opened Gastropod, and we were invited to the Thai Consulate General's home at that time, and he mentioned the entire province was less than 3,000 people that are Thai. Now there's probably triple that, and the amount of students that we get, and it's much better. So I think it's more open now. I think, especially during the Trump era, where it was harder to get visas to go to the U.S. Like a lot of them changed.
But I think Thai food is some of the most sophisticated in the world, right? It's intense, but it's very balanced. It's so much happening on the palate when you're having it, and so it's nice seeing it being preserved or being applied in different ways. That technique.
Yeah.
I mean, I know we talked a little bit about this. This idea of authenticity. It's a tough one, right?
It is a tough one.
But integrity is important.
Right. Like to be faithful to the roots is also important.
And so for you guys, from the Netflix special, you could see that integrity meant being part of a bigger ecosystem and protecting the ecosystem and protecting climate change and all of that. How does that work itself? How does that work itself in the mind that he's then on the plate?
Well, I always feel like if we not do something about sustainability, so if we don't stand up for our environmental friendly practice in producing the food, we're not gonna have any good produce to work with later on, and that scares me because our business is based on good food. So for me, it's like we can't do it hand in hand. You can't just make money first and then take care of the environmental thingy later. It's have to go hand in hand to be sustainable.
No, I agree. I mean, I lived in Asia for a while in the tropics, and when pollution goes south, it happens very fast. It seems to just kill off everything very quickly. And I remember when I lived in Hong Kong, and they're fun to go to, these restaurants with tanks and tanks and tanks of seafood. But part of you is like,
Where?
oh, yeah,
Wow, yeah.
how is that happening?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, and we sort of want to tell the people, like, or educate them as well, like, if, even you have to pay a little bit more, but for better food and better environment, why not? Yeah, and we also, like, try to advocate, like, don't eat too much.
Yeah.
There is smaller portion, but eat better quality.
Yeah.
Like,
So you're in Vancouver now. Like, what are you excited about cooking with? Like, you've had a chance to shop around. You went off on a big shopping trip.
like all the seafood that he talked about excites me. Like all the
Actually, she's pretty excited about the chicken, the Long Kong chicken.
the Hong Kong chicken as well, the Taiwanese hybrid chickens. Like yeah,
It is funny. I mean, just geographically, this so resembles Guangdong, like the southern province. So
Right.
they raise chickens, they raise local produce. It's off season, but and Hong Kong people do not want frozen food. Like they avoid frozen food. So live seafood, live chicken, or freshly killed chicken, and if at all possible, vegetables that are grown nearby. So
and the scallops that you get.
Yeah, the scallops, we got live scallops. I mean, the thing is, what I think explaining to David what it's like, the fish industry here is seasonal. So when it's in season, you can get the fish fresh. However, a lot of these fishermen go out there. They go out there for 2-3 days at a time. A lot of times they're frozen at sea because they have maybe a window of time to fish for the entire year. So for a city that's right next to the water, we don't get as much fresh fish as we like. Definitely not as much fresh, sustainable fish. There's a lot of non-sustainably caught fish that's live in Chinatown every day, right? But well, I mean,
no.
yeah. It's not like
It's
talking
hard.
about ocean-wise and talking about so
you guys are pretty ocean-wise.
yeah. I mean, we don't use the logo anymore because you have to see to be a part of it. But we try to be as sustainable as we can in terms of the products and all that. Yeah.
Do you think there's a difference between fish from cold waters and then seafood from
yes. Totally different.
Shellfish for sure.
Yeah.
I don't eat oysters in Bath.
Really?
But yeah, it's
Water's too warm.
the water is the own best.
Yeah.
And it's like this week as well.
Yeah.
So it's like,
And because the water's warm, it just tastes really fatty.
Oh.
And there's not enough that minerality to it. I just feel like, for me too, if I have a preference, I prefer East Coast oysters to West Coast oysters. Again, colder waters. So you get more minerality, you get that brininess, a little bit of kind of like melon, like really subtle taste. Here, sometimes like when it's in the summer, like it just tastes, all the oysters, different species, they just taste the same. So I prefer East Coast over West Coast.
because a lot.
But it's a pretty big country, so it's between the two coasts. It's quite a big distance to travel. But I don't eat oysters in Thailand. I don't eat much. Mussels are okay. Clams are fine. Scallops if they have, but they don't have a nice big diver scallops that we get.
Scallop is like this big.
Yeah, tiny.
So now that you're here, and I'm really excited because I know how intense Thai food can be. I love it.
Yeah, and we try to keep it intense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We were just saying that we've been. I was lucky enough. David here was here last time.
All right.
And just what a wake up that was. Like
Well, I feel like David sort of sometimes overdo it.
Yeah.
It's spicy because he want to emphasize on it have to be this spicy.
Well, then his menu wasn't that spicy.
Huh?
no, but it was intense.
Yeah, no, but his menu was quite. I think it was more Prince menu too, but it was not what we known him to be. Like sometimes some of the dishes that we had it when he first started back up in Bangkok and some of those dishes it's so good, but like one bite it's so good. Like, oh, one more.
Yeah.
There's jumbo curries that he does, like the Gang Dai Baz.
Yeah, the Southern style.
So spicy. But I mean that's
So
you get a point across.
so what do you want the diners who are going to come tomorrow? What do you want them to experience? What's the idea?
We want to transport them back to Thailand. Yeah, so like getting like the whole senses of like the smells, everything's like, oh, this is so Thai, like that.
I love
that.
Well, thank you for making time. Really excited. I know you guys are running around, so thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.